Inside every healthy leaf you grow is an enzyme called catalase. It produces it in every cell. And right now that enzyme is breaking down 40 million molecules of hydrogen peroxide every single second. That single biological fact is the reason a $1.50 brown bottle from the drugstore can land on your plants without burning them. And it is the reason powdery mildew, black spot, downy mildew, and septoria leaf spot cannot defend themselves against it the same way your plants can. Fungal pathogens do not carry catalase. They have no defense against oxidation. When you mist a diluted hydrogen peroxide solution over an infected leaf, you are not coating your plant in poison. You are placing a molecule the plant dismantles in seconds and the fungus cannot survive at all. That is not marketing language. That is evolutionary biology. And it is the reason this $1.50 bottle outperforms $20 fungicides at your garden center. Not because of a secret, but because of a mismatch in biology that the fungicide industry has no financial interest in explaining to you. I have been using this for 25 years. Today, I'm going to give you every use, every dilution ratio, every safety rule, and the science behind all of it, because nobody at that garden center shelf is going to do it for you. Drop your US state or USDA zone in the comments right now. What works in Georgia is not the same story as what works in Oregon. I read every single one and it shapes what I put out every week. Let's go. Use 1. Foliar spray. Fungal and bacterial disease. In 2008, a peer-reviewed study published in the International Journal of Horticultural Science tested hydrogen peroxide spray on greenhouse cucumbers. Researchers used a roughly 1% dilution of standard 3% household peroxide. Powdery mildew severity dropped from 90% of affected leaf area down to 12%. Notice the critical detail buried in that paper. The spray was applied preventatively, before symptoms appeared, not as a rescue after the white dust had already spread across half the bed. Hydrogen peroxide is far better as a shield than as a cure. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember that one sentence. Here is what most gardening channels never tell you about why this works beyond just killing fungal spores on contact. A 2016 review in Frontiers in Plant Science documented something called systemic acquired resistance. When a plant senses hydrogen peroxide on its leaves, it begins producing defense compounds in tissue the spray never directly touched. The chemistry involves crosstalk with nitric oxide, calcium ions, and the plant hormones that govern stress response. The practical translation is this. A light hydrogen peroxide spray on Tuesday teaches the plant to be ready for trouble on Friday. A heat wave, a fresh wave of spores blown in from a neighbor's garden. A wet stretch after a storm. The plant has already turned on its defense genes. You are not just treating today's mildew. You are giving the plant a head start on next week's stress. Working recipe: 1 tablespoon of standard 3% hydrogen peroxide per 1 cup of clean water. Mix only what you plan to use that day. Once diluted, the peroxide begins breaking down within hours. Pour into a fine mist sprayer. Apply in early morning or the last hour before dusk, never midday. UV light degrades the peroxide molecule before it can work, and wet leaves under hot sun can scorch. Cover every surface, tops and undersides of every leaf. Fungal spores colonize the undersides specifically because they are protected from environmental stress there. Mist the undersides, and you have done half the job. For vulnerable plants, squash, cucumber, zucchini, roses, zinnia, monarda, apply once weekly through the growing season as prevention. Here is what success looks like over 3 weeks of consistent spraying. Week 1, the existing dust stops spreading to new leaves. New growth comes in clean. Week 2, older affected leaves yellow and drop, but the plant beneath is still producing healthy stems. Week 3, the new canopy looks the way it did in June. The plant has not been cured. It has been given time to grow past the problem. That is the realistic goal. Tell me in the comments right now, what state are you in and what plant do you fight fungal disease on every single season? I read everyone, and I want to know what American gardens are struggling with most. Use 2. Root rot treatment and rescue. A tomato that wilts in the morning and recovers by evening. Pothos yellowing from the bottom up no matter how carefully you water. A sour smell rising from a pot you have not moved in weeks. That is root rot. And the worst instinct, the one almost every gardener follows, is to water more. The plant looks thirsty. The leaves are limp. So out comes the can, and the plant gets worse. Root rot fungi, Pythium, Phytophthora, Rhizoctonia, Fusarium, thrive in waterlogged, oxygen-depleted soil. They destroy the root's ability to move water upward. That is why the plant wilts in wet soil. The roots are gone. Here is a diagnostic detail worth memorizing before anything else. Healthy roots smell faintly sweet, like fresh-cut potatoes or rain on stone. Rotted roots smell sour, sometimes sharp, sometimes like a forgotten ditch. Trust your nose. It catches the problem before your eyes do. For a preventative soil drench, 1 tablespoon of 3% hydrogen peroxide per 1 cup of water. Drench the root zone. Listen, you will hear a soft fizz from the soil surface. That sound is the chemistry working underneath, oxidizing pathogen cell walls and releasing oxygen directly into the root zone where anaerobic conditions have been suffocating the roots. For a full rescue, remove the plant from its container. Trim every root that is dark, mushy, or foul-smelling using pruning shears wiped with undiluted peroxide. Do not be timid. Any infected root you leave attached continues spreading the pathogen into the tissue you are trying to save. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide per 1 cup of water. Soak the trimmed root system for 5 to 10 minutes. Repot into completely fresh, well-draining growing medium, not the original soil. Water once with the same diluted drench. Then, let the soil dry meaningfully between every subsequent watering. Roots already turned black and slimy are dead. Hydrogen peroxide will not bring them back. What it does is halt the spread, oxygenate surviving root tissue, and buy the window you need to repot and recover. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Not when this video ends. Right now. This channel puts out content at this level every single week. Real plant science, real money savings, real information nobody behind that garden center counter is going to give you. Hit subscribe. It is free. 2 seconds. Use 3. Pest control. Fungus gnat larvae live in the top layer of moist container soil and feed directly on plant roots. The damage they cause is identical to root rot. Wilting, yellowing, failure to establish. Most gardeners buy sticky traps for the adult flies. Traps do nothing about the larvae already working underground. Hydrogen peroxide soil, drench at 1 part 3% solution to 4 parts water kills fungus gnat larvae through direct oxidation. Let the top inch of soil dry first. This brings larvae toward the surface. Drench thoroughly. Apply every 5 to 7 days for 2 to 3 weeks. The adult population collapses within 1 generation because no viable larvae survive to maturity. For soft-bodied insects above ground, aphids, spider mites, the maintenance foliar concentration creates leaf surface conditions these insects find hostile. Their exoskeletons are vulnerable to oxidation at concentrations safe for plant tissue. Used consistently as a preventative, it makes your garden a less attractive feeding target. Hit the like button right now. Every like puts this information in front of another American gardener currently spending $20 a season on fungus gnat treatments that only work on half the problem. Use 4. Seed germination acceleration. A research team working through the CAMCOR conservation program tested hydrogen peroxide soaks on Atlantic white cedar, a species notorious for poor germination. A simple peroxide soak nearly doubled germination rates compared to other sterilization treatments. A 2016 review across multiple crop species explained the mechanism. Hydrogen peroxide soaks shift the internal hormone balance of the seed. Abscisic acid, which keeps seeds dormant, drops. Gibberellic acid, which drives sprouting, rises. The seed coat softens. The seed wakes up because the chemistry inside it has been told to. If you have a coffee tin of old seeds in a drawer, heirloom tomatoes from 3 seasons ago, bean varieties nobody sells anymore, packets past their printed date, this is worth trying before you throw them away. Mix 1 tablespoon of 3% peroxide per 1 cup of clean water. Soak seeds for 15 to 30 minutes. No longer. Rinse with plain water. Plant immediately. Keep the soil warm and surface moist until you see the first green. The lifeline was never gone. It was sealed under a coat the seed could not break on its own. Use 5. Soil oxygenation and root growth. Most experienced gardeners have noticed something they cannot fully explain. After a heavy summer thunderstorm, plants look different the next morning. Not just wet, vivid, more alive than anything from a garden hose produces. In 1999, geochemists documented exactly why. Lightning passing through humid air drives chemistry that produces measurable amounts of hydrogen peroxide in falling rain. During electrical storms, peroxide levels in rainwater rise with lightning activity. This natural process has been running above your garden for hundreds of millions of years. The dramatic improvement you see after a storm is partially the water and partially the oxygenation. When you add hydrogen peroxide to your watering routine at maintenance concentration, you are replicating what nature does during a thunderstorm. The oxygen released into the root zone increases root metabolic activity, improves nutrient uptake efficiency, and is particularly valuable in container soil that has compacted over successive watering cycles. You are not introducing something foreign into your garden. You are echoing a process plants have always lived with, concentrated enough to be useful in your hands. Use 6. Disinfecting tools and containers. The pruning shears you used on a diseased plant and did not sanitize before moving to the next one spread the pathogen. That is not a possibility. That is a certainty. Your tools are disease vectors every single time you use them without disinfection between cuts on diseased material. Wipe pruning blades with undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide between cuts. 30 seconds. That is the entire protocol. For containers that held diseased plants last season, spray the interior with a 1-to-1 solution of peroxide and water. Let it sit 10 minutes, rinse. For greenhouse surfaces and benches, apply with a pump sprayer before the growing season begins. Compare this to bleach, the other recommended option. Bleach leaves chlorine residue harmful to plant roots. It corrodes metal tools. It cannot be used near plants without risk of damage. Hydrogen peroxide leaves nothing behind. It is the correct choice for every garden disinfection application. Use 7. Sterilizing and reusing container soil. Every spring, millions of American gardeners throw away last season's container soil and buy new bags. The companies selling those bags are grateful for your not knowing what I am about to tell you. Old container soil can be sterilized and reused. Mix 1 cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water and drench the old growing medium thoroughly until the solution runs from the drainage holes. Allow it to sit for 24 to 48 hours before planting. The peroxide destroys dormant fungal spores, insect eggs, and bacterial colonies, then breaks down completely, leaving nothing but oxygenated water behind. The bag of potting soil you did not buy costs you nothing. Multiply that across every container you fill every spring, and the savings are real money staying in your pocket every single year. Use 8. Enhancing hydroponic systems. For gardeners growing hydroponically, hydrogen peroxide addresses the primary threats in recirculating water systems: algae colonization and root rot pathogens that thrive in warm, nutrient-dense, low-oxygen water. Adding hydrogen peroxide to your hydroponic reservoir raises dissolved oxygen levels in the water and prevents algae from establishing on reservoir walls, tubing, and root chambers. Typical addition rate: 2 to 3 milliliters of 3% hydrogen peroxide per liter of reservoir water, added fresh every 3 to 5 days. One critical rule: never add hydrogen peroxide to a reservoir that also contains a beneficial bacteria inoculant or mycorrhizal product. Peroxide does not distinguish between harmful pathogens and beneficial organisms. It destroys both. Plan your applications accordingly. Use 9. Protecting tree wounds. Tree wounds, from storms, pruning cuts, lawnmower damage, are entry points for fungal and bacterial pathogens: fire blight, canker disease, crown gall. These infections frequently begin at wound sites where the protective bark layer has been breached. Apply 3% hydrogen peroxide directly to fresh tree wounds with a clean applicator. Allow to dry. Monitor the site over the following weeks for signs of callus formation. For any tree showing dead branches without obvious mechanical cause or progressive canopy decline, consult a professional arborist. Hydrogen peroxide addresses surface pathogen load. Established systemic infection requires professional assessment. Complete dilution reference. Maintenance foliar spray. 1 tablespoon per 1 cup water. Active fungal treatment. 8 to 12 tablespoons per gallon. Fungus gnat soil drench. 1 part peroxide to 4 parts water. Routine root health drench. 1 tablespoon per 1 cup water. Root rot rescue soak. 1 tablespoon per 1 cup water. Stronger for severe cases. Seed pre-soak. 1 tablespoon per 1 cup water. 15 to 30 minutes maximum. Tool and container disinfection. 1 part peroxide to 1 part water. Soil sterilization. 1 cup per gallon. Safety rules before you start. Standard drugstore. 3% hydrogen peroxide only. The brown bottle. Under $2. 35% food-grade peroxide is corrosive at full concentration. Burns skin on contact. Destroys plant tissue immediately. If you use it, dilute 1 part with 11 parts distilled water before applying any of the ratios above. Never spray in full midday sun. UV light degrades the peroxide and wet leaves under direct sun can scorch. Never mix hydrogen peroxide with vinegar in the same container. The combination produces peracetic acid, a stronger oxidizer harsh on plant tissue and on your lungs. Use one, then the other, on separate days. Never mix with neem oil in the same application. Rotate them on different days. Always test 1 leaf first. Missed 2 or 3 leaves. Wait 48 hours. Look for bleaching or spotting. If those leaves are fine, proceed with the full plant. Sensitive species need extra caution. Orchids, African violets, ferns, peace lilies, and any plant with thin or fuzzy leaves. Use half the standard concentration for these. One practical note for gardeners who have been at this for decades. Use a light spray bottle filled halfway. A full 2-liter sprayer weighs over 4 pounds and rides on your wrist for the entire job. Half full saves the joints. Spray sitting down where you can. The edge of a raised bed, a low stool, a folding chair brought out for the morning. If hand strength comes and goes after years of pulling weeds and turning compost, a small battery-powered sprayer costs about $20 at any hardware store. Press a button, hold the wand, let the motor do the work. The right tool is not vanity. It is the reason you still want to be out here next summer. Here is the market reality nobody advertises. Hydrogen peroxide was registered with the EPA as a pesticide ingredient in 1977. Approved specifically for use on growing plants in 1998. As of recent USDA records, more than 160 commercial pesticide products on the market contain it as an active ingredient. The reason it is not on television commercials is the same reason nobody advertises table salt. It has no patent protection. Any manufacturer can produce it. Margins are slim. There is no budget for glossy packaging. Companies selling $60 branded fungicides cannot afford to remind you that the same active ingredient sits in a brown bottle for under $2 at your corner pharmacy. This is a market story, not a conspiracy. The product was never hidden. It was simply never profitable enough to promote loudly. Subscribe right now if you have not already. Hit the bell, and before you go, drop 2 things in the comments. What state or zone are you gardening in? And which of these 9 uses are you trying first? I read every single comment. I respond to as many as I can, and your answers shape the next video directly. Now go get that bottle out of your medicine cabinet. The plants you grow have survived for hundreds of millions of years by listening to chemical signals. Hydrogen peroxide is one of the oldest signals they recognize. It has been falling on them in thunderstorms since long before you or I were gardening. All you are doing is giving them a little more of what nature has always provided. Your garden has been waiting for it. They destroy the root's ability to move water up.